The hospital doors slid open with a quiet whoosh, and Maya stepped out into the cool afternoon air. At 8 months pregnant, every step felt like a small victory. She placed one hand on her round belly and took a deep breath, feeling her baby kick gently as if responding to the fresh air. The appointment had gone well. Dr. Peterson had smiled when he checked her blood pressure and said everything looked perfect. "Just take it easy," he'd reminded her, the same advice he gave every visit. Maya had nodded, though taking it easy wasn't always possible when you worked as a nurse at the children's hospital across town. She pulled out her phone to call her husband, David. The screen showed 3 missed calls from her supervisor, but those could wait. Right now, she just wanted to hear David's voice and tell him about the baby's strong heartbeat they'd heard during the ultrasound. The phone rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. Maya frowned and tried again. Same result. She remembered David mentioning something about a big presentation at his accounting firm today. He was probably still in the conference room, phone on silent, discussing quarterly reports with clients. A light drizzle started to fall, and Maya looked up at the gray Chicago sky. The weather forecast had predicted rain, but she'd hoped it would hold off until she got home. Their apartment was only 15 minutes away by car, but the bus route would take nearly an hour with 2 transfers. Her feet were already swollen, and the thought of standing at bus stops in the rain made her wince. She decided to call a taxi instead. It wasn't something they did often. Money was tight with the baby coming and David's recent pay cut at work, but sometimes comfort was worth the extra expense. Maya walked toward the main street where she'd have better luck flagging down a cab. The hospital district was always busy. Medical workers in scrubs hurried past. Visitors carried flowers and get-well cards, and the constant stream of ambulances reminded everyone that life moved quickly here. Maya had worked in this area for 3 years before switching to the children's hospital, and she knew the rhythm of the neighborhood well. She positioned herself near the taxi stand, raising her hand as she saw a yellow cab approach. The driver looked in her direction, and for a moment Maya thought he was going to pull over. Instead, he accelerated past her, water from a puddle splashing onto the sidewalk just inches from her shoes. Must have had another pickup, Maya said to herself, though something about the way the driver had looked at her felt odd. She shrugged it off and waited for the next cab. 10 minutes passed. The drizzle was getting heavier, and Maya could feel dampness seeping through her light jacket. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister asking about the doctor's appointment. Maya quickly typed back that everything was fine and she'd call later. Another taxi appeared, this one with its light on, clearly available. Maya stepped forward and waved. The driver seemed to see her, even slowed down slightly, but then continued past without stopping. Maya's heart sank a little. Maybe the taxi drivers were just busy today. She tried calling David again. Still voicemail. Maya left a short message explaining she was trying to get home from the hospital and would take a cab if she couldn't reach him. As she spoke, she noticed a woman with a young child successfully hailing a taxi just 50 feet away. The driver had stopped immediately and was helping them with their stroller. Maya felt a strange knot forming in her stomach, but she pushed the feeling away. She was probably overthinking things. Pregnancy hormones could make anyone emotional and suspicious. She'd wait a little longer. The rain was getting heavier now. Maya spotted an awning outside a small coffee shop and moved under it for shelter. From this new position, she had a better view of the street and could still signal for taxis. She watched as several cabs drove by, some with passengers, others clearly empty but not stopping. A businessman in an expensive suit arrived at the corner and raised his hand. Within 30 seconds, a taxi pulled over. Maya watched as he climbed in and drove away. She felt that knot in her stomach tighten. She tried calling David one more time, then decided to text him. At hospital, need ride home. Having trouble getting taxi, call when you can. She hit send and looked back at the street. By now, Maya had been waiting for nearly 40 minutes. Her back was starting to ache from standing, and she could feel her baby moving restlessly, as if picking up on her stress. She decided to walk to the next block, thinking maybe she'd have better luck at a different spot. As she walked, carefully avoiding puddles, Maya noticed how easily other people seemed to catch rides. A young couple got a taxi within minutes. An elderly man with a cane was picked up almost immediately, but whenever Maya raised her hand, drivers seemed to look right through her. The realization hit her slowly. like a cold wave washing over her. She'd experienced subtle discrimination before, the way some people looked at her in certain neighborhoods, the occasionally cool reception at upscale stores. But this felt different. More direct, more hurtful. Maya found herself at another corner, this one busier with foot traffic. The rain had lightened to a gentle mist and she felt more hopeful. Maybe her luck was about to change. She saw a taxi approaching with its available light glowing like a beacon of hope. This time she was determined to make eye contact with the driver. She stepped slightly into the street, making herself impossible to miss, and waved clearly. The driver saw her. There was no question about that. Their eyes met through the windshield, but instead of stopping, the driver shook his head slightly and kept going. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes, though she wasn't sure if it was from frustration, hurt, or pregnancy hormones. Maybe all three. She placed both hands on her belly, feeling her baby's reassuring movements, and took a deep breath. She wasn't giving up. Not today. Not when she had a little one depending on her to get home safely. Maya pulled out her phone to consider other options. Maybe a ride-sharing app would work better. But first, she was going to try one more time to flag down a regular taxi. After all, it only took one decent human being to restore her faith in people. Surely, in a city of millions, there had to be at least one taxi driver willing to give a pregnant woman a safe ride home. Maya straightened her shoulders, wiped away a stray raindrop from her cheek, and prepared to wait a little longer. She had no idea that her afternoon was about to take a turn that would change not only her day, but the lives of countless others. Maya had been standing in the light rain for over an hour now. Her feet hurt, her back ached, and she was starting to feel genuinely worried about getting home before dark. She'd moved to 3 different street corners hoping for better luck, but the result was always the same. Taxi after taxi passed her by. She watched a businessman get picked up immediately at the corner across the street. Then an elderly woman with shopping bags had no trouble finding a ride. But every time Maya raised her hand, drivers seemed to look right through her or suddenly become very interested in something else. Her phone buzzed. Finally, David was calling back. "Hey honey, sorry I missed your calls. The Peterson meeting ran really late. How did everything go at the doctor's?" Maya felt relief wash over her just hearing his voice. "Everything's fine with the baby. But David, I'm having the strangest problem. I've been trying to get a taxi for over an hour and no one will stop for me." There was a pause. "That's weird. Maybe it's just busy today? You know how downtown gets." "I thought so too, but I've watched other people get rides right away. I'm starting to think—" Maya trailed off, not wanting to say what she was really thinking. "Think what?" "Nothing." "Never mind. Can you come pick me up? I'm at the corner of Michigan and Randolph." "Of course. I'll leave right now. Should be there in 20 minutes depending on traffic. Just find somewhere dry to wait, okay?" Maya felt better knowing David was on his way, but she was still puzzled and hurt by what had happened. She decided to try one more time while she waited. Maybe she'd just had bad luck. A yellow cab approached and Maya stepped forward with her hand raised. The driver was a heavy-set man with graying hair, probably in his 50s. He saw her clearly and actually started to slow down. Maya felt a surge of hope. But as the taxi got closer and the driver got a better look at her face, his expression changed. He shook his head and started to speed up again. Something inside Maya snapped. All the frustration and hurt from the past hour bubbled over. She stepped into the street, safely but boldly, and waved both hands. "Sir, please," she called out. "I really need a ride." The driver stopped, but he didn't look happy about it. He rolled down his window and looked at Maya with obvious annoyance. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice rough and unfriendly. "I need a taxi to the south side. It's only about 15 minutes. The man looked her up and down, taking in her appearance, her pregnant belly, her face. His expression grew even more sour. "Sorry, lady. I'm off duty." Maya looked at the light on top of his cab, which was clearly indicating he was available for hire. "But your light is on. It says you're available." "Well, I'm not available for you," the driver said, his meaning crystal clear. Maya felt like she'd been slapped. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Find another cab." "Is this because I'm pregnant?" "Because I can assure you—" "It's not because you're pregnant," the driver interrupted, and the way he said it made Maya's blood run cold. She understood exactly what he meant. "So it's because I'm black." The driver didn't answer directly, but his silence and the look in his eyes said everything. Maya felt anger rising in her chest, but she tried to keep her voice steady. Sir, it's illegal to discriminate based on race. You're required by law to take any passenger who can pay. Yeah? Well, prove it, the man sneered. It's your word against mine. Maya pulled out her phone. What's your name? And your cab number? Don't you dare, the driver said, suddenly looking nervous. Put that phone away. Your cab number is 47 Delta. I can see it right on your door. And your license says Robert Chen. Maya took a picture of his taxi license mounted on the dashboard. Hey, you can't do that. I can and I did. This is a public street, and you're refusing service based on my race. That's discrimination. Other people on the street were starting to notice the commotion. A young man with a backpack had stopped walking and was watching the interaction with concern. An older woman with an umbrella moved closer, clearly listening to what was happening. The driver's face was getting red. Look, I don't want any trouble. I just don't feel comfortable. Comfortable with what? With treating me like a human being? It's not personal, the driver said, though his tone suggested it absolutely was personal. It's just, you people. There's always problems, drama. I don't need the headache. Maya felt tears stinging her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You people, really? You're going to say that to a pregnant woman who just needs a safe ride home? The young man with the backpack stepped forward. Excuse me, is everything okay here? Mind your own business, the driver snapped. Actually, this is my business, the young man said calmly. I saw what just happened, and I recorded part of it on my phone. You just refused service to this lady because of her race. The driver's eyes widened. You what? I recorded it. The whole conversation. You refusing her service, you saying you people, all of it. Maya looked at the young man gratefully. Thank you. I'm Maya, by the way. I'm Chris, and what you're doing is completely illegal, sir. I'm a law student, and I know discrimination when I see it. The driver looked panicked now. Erase that video. Right now? I don't think so, Chris said. This is exactly the kind of thing people need to see. This is 2024, not 1954. Fine, the driver said, throwing his hands up. Get in the cab. I'll take you wherever you want to go. Just don't post that video. Maya shook her head. No, thank you. I wouldn't feel safe in your cab now. And I definitely don't want to give you my money. Then what do you want? I want you to understand that what you did was wrong. I'm a nurse. I help save lives every day, including the lives of people who look exactly like you. I pay taxes, I follow the laws, I'm having a baby who will grow up in this city. And you treated me like I was less than human. The driver looked uncomfortable but not apologetic. Look, I said I'd give you a ride. What more do you want? An apology would be nice. I'm not apologizing for anything. I run my business how I want. Maya nodded sadly. Then I guess we're done here. Just then her phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen. Hey, I'm almost there. Where exactly are you? I'm right where I said. And you won't believe what just happened. As Maya told David about the confrontation, Chris stayed nearby, still recording occasional parts of the interaction. The taxi driver finally gave up and drove away, but not before shouting something unpleasant out his window. Maya sat down carefully on a nearby bench, feeling emotionally drained. Chris sat beside her. Are you okay? He asked. That was really horrible. I'm okay. Upset, but okay. Thank you for stepping in. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Nobody should have to deal with that kind of treatment, especially not a pregnant woman just trying to get home safely. Maya looked at Chris thoughtfully. You said you recorded it? Yeah, I got the whole thing. His refusal, his comments, everything. What are you thinking about doing with it? Maya was quiet for a moment, one hand resting on her belly. She thought about her unborn daughter, about the world she would grow up in. She thought about all the other people who might face the same treatment from this driver. I'm not sure yet, she said finally, but something needs to be done. This can't just be ignored, Chris nodded. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. And I'll share this video if you want me to. People need to see what still happens in this city. As David's car pulled up to the curb, Maya felt a mix of relief and determination. The ride home would be safe and comfortable, but the real journey was just beginning. Maya spent the evening telling David everything that had happened. They sat on their couch, her feet soaking in warm water while David rubbed her shoulders and listened with growing anger and disbelief. I can't believe someone treated you like that, David said for the third time, especially when you're pregnant. What kind of person does that? Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Chris, the law student who had helped her. "Hi Maya, I've been thinking about what happened today. Would you like to meet tomorrow to talk about what we can do with that video? I think people need to see this." Maya showed the text to David. "What do you think?" David was quiet for a moment. "I think if we don't do something, that driver will just keep treating people this way. And maybe other drivers will too." The next morning, Maya met Chris at a coffee shop near the hospital. He brought his laptop and showed her the video he'd recorded. Watching it back was even more painful than living through it. The driver's face was clear. His words were unmistakable, and Maya could see her own hurt and dignity in the footage. "This is powerful stuff," Chris said gently. "But I want to make sure you're ready for what might happen if this gets out there. Once something goes online, you can't control where it goes." Maya thought about her daughter who would be born in just a few weeks. "I keep thinking about what kind of world I want her to grow up in. If I stay quiet about this, am I making that world better or worse? I think you already know the answer to that." Chris had a significant following on social media from his activism work and law school projects. He'd been documenting social justice issues around Chicago for 2 years, and his videos often got thousands of views. "I'll write something respectful but honest," Chris explained. "I'll focus on the facts, include your permission to share your story, and let people draw their own conclusions." Maya agreed, and they crafted the post together. Chris uploaded the video to TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook with the caption, "Yesterday I witnessed this pregnant nurse being denied taxi service in downtown Chicago. This is what discrimination looks like in 2024. Maya gave me permission to share her story because she believes people need to see what still happens in our city." At first, nothing much happened. A few likes, a couple of shares from Chris's usual followers. Maya went to work at the children's hospital and almost forgot about it. But then something unexpected occurred. By lunchtime, the video had been shared over 100 times. By evening, it had reached 1,000 shares. Maya's phone started buzzing with notifications as friends and coworkers began seeing the video and recognizing her. Her sister called first. "Maya, I just saw a video online. Was that really you?" Then her supervisor at the hospital called. "Maya, honey, are you okay? Some of the staff saw this video going around. Do you need any time off?" By the time Maya got home from work, the video had been viewed over 50,000 times. David was waiting with dinner ready and a concerned expression. "How are you feeling about all this?" he asked. Maya wasn't sure. Part of her felt exposed and vulnerable, but another part felt validated. Like finally, people could see what she had experienced. The real explosion happened overnight. Maya woke up to her phone buzzing constantly. The video had somehow caught the attention of several popular social media accounts with millions of followers. Each time someone with a large following shared it, the views multiplied exponentially. By morning, the video had been viewed over 2 million times. The comments were overwhelming. Thousands of people expressing outrage, sharing their own similar experiences and demanding action. Some comments made Maya cry with their kindness and support. Others made her angry with their attempts to justify the driver's behavior. But most importantly, people were taking action. Someone had identified the taxi company from the cab's markings in the video. Yellow Diamond Taxi's Facebook page and Google reviews were flooded with complaints. Their phone lines were jammed with people demanding the driver be fired. Local news stations started calling Maya's phone. First Channel 7, then Channel 2, then the Tribune. Maya felt overwhelmed and called Chris for advice. "This is way bigger than I expected," she told him. "I don't know if I'm ready for all this attention." Chris understood. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do." "But Maya, this video is starting real conversations about discrimination in Chicago. People are sharing their own stories in the comments. You've given other people courage to speak up." Maya read through more of the comments and saw what Chris meant. Dozens of people were sharing similar experiences, not just with taxis, but with restaurants, stores, and other services. The video had become a catalyst for a much larger conversation. The taxi company released a statement that afternoon. "Yellow Diamond Taxi does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. We are investigating this incident and will take appropriate action." But the public wasn't satisfied with a generic statement. The pressure continued to build. Maya decided to do one television interview with Channel 7's Evening News. She wanted to make sure her voice was heard directly, not just through the viral video. "I didn't expect any of this," Maya told the reporter. "I just wanted to get home safely after my doctor's appointment. I never imagined that sharing what happened would reach so many people." "What do you want people to take away from your experience?" the reporter asked. Maya thought carefully before answering. "I want people to understand that discrimination isn't just something that happened in the past. It's still happening today to real people in everyday situations. And I want people to know that when we speak up about injustice, we're not trying to cause trouble. We're trying to make things better." The news segment aired that evening, and the story reached an even wider audience. The video was now being shared on national social media accounts. Maya started receiving messages from people across the country, and even internationally. A civil rights organization in Chicago reached out, offering legal support if Maya wanted to file a complaint. The mayor's office called to express support and discuss policy changes. Several ride-sharing companies offered Maya free rides for a year, but perhaps most meaningfully, Maya received hundreds of messages from pregnant women, new mothers, and women of color sharing their own stories and thanking her for her courage. David found Maya that evening sitting at their kitchen table, reading through messages on her laptop with tears in her eyes. "Are those happy tears or sad tears?" he asked gently. "Both," Maya said. "I'm sad that so many people have experienced what I experienced, but I'm happy that we're all talking about it now. Maybe that's how change starts, with people finally talking about things that have been hidden for too long." As Maya got ready for bed that night, she placed her hands on her belly and spoke softly to her unborn daughter. "I hope I'm making the world a little bit better for you, little one. And I hope that by the time you're old enough to take taxis on your own, drivers will see you as just another passenger who deserves respect and kindness." Outside their apartment window, Chicago continued its busy rhythm. But something had shifted. A conversation had begun that would ripple far beyond one pregnant woman's difficult afternoon, touching lives and changing perspectives in ways Maya was only beginning to understand. The pressure on Yellow Diamond Taxi Company was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Within 48 hours of the video going viral, their phones hadn't stopped ringing. The company's owner, Frank Kowalski, sat in his office staring at his computer screen in disbelief. The video had been viewed over 5 million times now. Their Google reviews had dropped from 4 stars to 1.5 stars overnight. Corporate clients were canceling contracts, and several major hotels had removed Yellow Diamond from their recommended transportation list. "We have to do something fast," Frank's assistant told him. "The reporters outside aren't going away, and the city licensing board just called. They want to meet with you tomorrow morning." Frank rubbed his temples. In 23 years of running the taxi company, he'd never faced anything like this. He'd built his business on reliability and good customer service. And now one driver's actions were threatening to destroy everything. The driver in question, Robert Chan, had been with the company for 6 years. His driving record was clean, and Frank had never received serious complaints about him before. But the evidence in the video was undeniable. Frank made the call himself. "Robert, we need to talk. Come to the office immediately." When Robert arrived an hour later, he looked defensive and angry rather than apologetic. "This whole thing is blown out of proportion," Robert said before Frank could even speak. "I've been driving for 15 years. I know my business." Frank played the video on his computer. "Robert, I want you to watch this and tell me if you think this represents the values of our company." Robert watched reluctantly, his jaw set in a stubborn line. "Look, Frank, I was having a bad day. My wife was in the hospital, I was stressed out, and I made a mistake." "A mistake?" Frank couldn't keep the disbelief out of his voice. "You refuse service to a pregnant woman because of her race. That's not a mistake, Robert. That's discrimination." She's making it sound worse than it was. Frank paused the video at the moment where Robert's face was clearly visible, where his words were unmistakably discriminatory. "Robert, there's video evidence. Millions of people have seen exactly what happened. Our company is being destroyed because of this." The reality seemed to sink in for Robert then. He looked around Frank's office, taking in the stacks of complaint letters, the phone that kept ringing with angry callers. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying you're fired, effective immediately. Turn in your cab, your license, and your company ID. Security will escort you out." Robert's face turned red. "You can't do this. I've got bills to pay, a family to support." "You should have thought about that before you humiliated a pregnant woman on camera," Frank replied. "Robert, I've tried to run this company with integrity. What you did goes against everything we stand for. As security escorted Robert out, Frank drafted a public statement.
It needed to be stronger than their first generic response. The statement read, Yellow Diamond Taxi Company has terminated the employment of driver Robert Chen, effective immediately.
After reviewing video evidence of discriminatory behavior, we found his actions to be completely unacceptable and in violation of our company policies and values. We sincerely apologize to Maya and her family for this inexcusable treatment. We are implementing immediate changes, including mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for all drivers, and establishing a direct hotline for discrimination complaints. We commit to doing better. But the damage was already extensive. 3 major corporate clients had canceled their accounts, representing nearly 30% of the company's revenue. The city was launching an investigation into the company's practices, and lawyers were calling about potential discrimination lawsuits. Meanwhile, Maya was experiencing the surreal reality of her story becoming national news. She woke up to find reporters camped outside her apartment building. Her story was being discussed on morning talk shows across the country. Maya Johnson's experience in Chicago has sparked a nationwide conversation about discrimination in public transportation, one news anchor said. Similar stories are now emerging from cities across America. The attention was overwhelming, but it was also creating positive changes. The mayor of Chicago announced a new task force to address discrimination in city-licensed transportation. The Taxi Commission was reviewing policies and considering new training requirements for all drivers. Maya received a call from the mayor's office personally. Mayor Rodriguez wanted to meet with her to discuss her experience and how the city could prevent similar incidents. Mrs. Johnson, I want you to know that what happened to you doesn't represent Chicago's values, the mayor said during their phone call. We're committed to making sure this never happens again. Maya appreciated the gesture, but she was more interested in concrete changes than political statements. Thank you, Mayor Rodriguez. I hope we can focus on real solutions that will help other people who might face similar treatment. The meeting took place the following week at City Hall. Maya, accompanied by David and Chris, sat across from the mayor and several city officials. We're proposing several immediate changes, the mayor explained. First, mandatory anti-discrimination training for all taxi and rideshare drivers. Second, a streamlined complaint process with real consequences for violations. Third, regular audits of transportation companies to ensure compliance. Maya nodded approvingly. That sounds like a good start. But I think it's also important to focus on education and understanding, not just punishment. Chris spoke up. Maya's right. We need to address the underlying attitudes that make this kind of discrimination possible. The city officials took notes as Maya and Chris outlined their suggestions. They talked about community dialogues, cultural sensitivity programs, and partnerships between transportation companies and civil rights organizations. But while Maya was working with city officials on policy changes, Robert Chen was facing his own consequences. After losing his job at Yellow Diamond, he found it nearly impossible to find work in transportation. Word had spread throughout the industry and his face from the viral video was too recognizable. His wife, Linda, was recovering from surgery when he came home and told her he'd been fired. The medical bills were piling up and now they had no steady income. What are we going to do? Linda asked, worry evident in her voice. Robert felt angry and defensive. It's not fair. One bad moment and my whole career is ruined. That woman destroyed my life. But as the days passed and Robert struggled to find work, he began to see the impact of his actions more clearly. His teenage daughter came home from school upset because her classmates had seen the video and were asking questions. His son called from college, embarrassed by his father's behavior. Dad, I can't believe you did that, his son said during a tense phone call. How could you treat someone like that? Robert tried to explain about his stress, his bad day, but the words sounded hollow even to himself. Meanwhile, Maya was discovering that her viral moment had created opportunities she never expected. A prominent civil rights organization offered her a position as a community outreach coordinator. A publisher reached out about writing a book about her experience. Speaking engagements were being offered across the country. But Maya was also dealing with negative attention. Some people criticized her for ruining a man's life or accused her of seeking attention. The comment section of every article about her story contained both supportive and hostile messages. David found Maya reading through some particularly nasty comments one evening. Maybe you should stay off social media for a while, he suggested gently. Maya looked up from her phone. I know I should, but I feel like I need to see what people are saying. Some of these comments are really hurtful, but others are so supportive and encouraging. The people who matter know you did the right thing. Maya nodded, placing her hand on her belly. I keep thinking about our daughter. I want her to grow up in a world where people are held accountable for discrimination. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's messy, sometimes that's how change happens. As Maya prepared for bed that night, she reflected on how much her life had changed in just a few weeks. A simple request for a taxi ride had become a national conversation about race, discrimination, and justice. She had no idea that the most surprising chapter of her story was still to come. 3 months had passed since the video went viral, and Maya was adjusting to life as a new mother. Baby Zoe had arrived 2 weeks early, healthy and perfect, with her father's eyes and her mother's determined spirit. The media attention had finally died down, and Maya was grateful for the quiet routine of feedings, diaper changes, and precious moments watching her daughter sleep. Maya had decided to take an extended maternity leave from the hospital. The civil rights organization had offered her a flexible consulting position that would allow her to work from home while caring for Zoe. She was helping develop training programs for transportation companies across the country, turning her painful experience into positive change. David was back at work full-time, and their life was settling into a new normal. Maya had started to believe that the chapter of her life involving Robert Chen was closed forever. Then she received an unexpected letter in the mail. The return address was handwritten, with no company name. Maya almost threw it away, assuming it was another letter from someone who had opinions about her story. She received several of those each week still, some supportive, some critical, but something made her open this one. Dear Maya, the letter began. My name is Robert Chen. I am the taxi driver from the video. I know you have no reason to read this letter or care about what I have to say, but I needed to try to reach you. Maya's heart started racing. She looked around the living room where she was sitting with Zoe, suddenly feeling vulnerable. David was at work, and she was alone with the baby. But curiosity overcame her initial fear, and she kept reading. I have spent the last 3 months thinking about what I did to you that day. I lost my job, and I deserve to lose it. I hurt you when you needed help, and there is no excuse for that. But I want you to know that losing my job wasn't the worst consequence of my actions. Maya shifted Zoe to her other arm and continued, reading. The worst consequence was seeing the disappointment in my children's eyes. My son called me from college, ashamed of his father. My daughter came home from school crying because her friends had seen the video. My wife, who was recovering from surgery at the time, was heartbroken by what I had done. The letter went on for 2 pages. Robert described how he had grown up in a neighborhood where prejudice was common, how he had absorbed attitudes without questioning them, and how he had never confronted his own biases until they were displayed for the world to see. I have been going to counseling, the letter continued. I am learning about unconscious bias and the harm that discrimination causes. I am volunteering at a community center that serves families like yours, trying to understand the impact of prejudice from a different perspective. Maya was surprised by the vulnerability and honesty in the letter. This was not what she had expected from the angry man she had encountered that day. I don't expect forgiveness, Robert wrote. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that your courage in speaking up changed me. It forced me to look at myself honestly for the first time in my life. I am not the same person who refused you service that day. The letter ended with a request that shocked Maya completely. I know this is asking too much, but I would like the chance to apologize to you in person, not for my benefit, but because I think it's important for me to face the harm I caused. If you would be willing to meet with me, perhaps in a public place with other people present, I would be grateful. If not, I understand completely. Maya read the letter 3 times, her emotions swirling between anger, curiosity, and something that might have been compassion. Zoe stirred in her arms, and Maya looked down at her daughter's peaceful face. She thought about the kind of world she wanted Zoe to grow up in, a world where people could change, where mistakes could lead to growth, where dialogue could replace division. That evening, when David came home from work, Maya showed him the letter. What do you think? She asked after he finished reading. David was quiet for a long time. I think this could be healing for both of you. or it could be painful and disappointing. There's no way to know until you try. Maya called Chris, the law student who had recorded the original video. His perspective had been valuable throughout this entire experience. "It's your choice entirely," Chris said. "But I think there's something powerful about facing each other as human beings, rather than as symbols in a viral video. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons." After a week of consideration, Maya decided to meet with Robert. She chose the community center where he had been volunteering, with the center's director present to facilitate the conversation. The meeting was scheduled for a Saturday morning. Maya arrived with Zoe and her carrier, feeling nervous but determined. The community center was in a diverse neighborhood, filled with families and children of all backgrounds. Robert was already there when Maya arrived, sitting in a small conference room with the center director, Mrs. Washington. He looked different from the angry man in the video, older, more tired but somehow softer around the edges. When Maya walked in, Robert stood immediately. For a moment they just looked at each other, two people whose lives had become unexpectedly intertwined. "Maya," Robert said quietly, "thank you for coming. I know this must be difficult." Maya sat down across from him, Zoe sleeping peacefully in her carrier. "It is difficult, but I thought it was important." Mrs. Washington facilitated the conversation gently, helping both Maya and Robert express their thoughts and feelings safely. Robert apologized sincerely and specifically, acknowledging the pain he had caused and taking full responsibility for his actions. "I want you to know," Robert said, "that I've been working with families here at the center for 2 months now. I've gotten to know people as individuals, as parents, as human beings. I see now how my prejudices blinded me to your humanity that day." Maya listened carefully, watching Robert's face for signs of sincerity. "What made you decide to write to me?" "My counselor suggested that making amends was an important part of changing. But honestly, it was seeing pictures of your baby in the news that made me realize I needed to try. I kept thinking about how I treated you when you were pregnant, when you were vulnerable and needed help. It made me sick." The conversation lasted nearly 2 hours. They talked about prejudice, parenthood, and the possibility of redemption. Robert shared his plan to become an advocate against discrimination, speaking at schools and community groups about the harm that bias causes. "I can never undo what I did," Robert said. "But I can spend the rest of my life trying to prevent other people from making the same mistakes." Maya was quiet for a long moment, looking down at Zoe, who had woken up and was looking around with bright, curious eyes. "I accept your apology, Robert," Maya said finally, "and I think it's important that you're working to change. But the real test will be what you do going forward, not what you say in this room." Robert nodded. "I understand. I hope someday I can prove to you and to everyone that people can change." As the meeting ended, something unexpected happened. Robert asked if he could see Zoe, and Maya found herself agreeing. He looked down at the baby with genuine tenderness. "She's beautiful," he said softly. "I hope she grows up in a better world than the one I helped create." Maya felt tears in her eyes. "She will, because there are people like you willing to do the hard work of changing." 6 months later, Maya received another letter from Robert. This one was different. It contained a newspaper article about his speaking engagement at a local high school, where he had shared his story and urged students to examine their own biases. The article quoted one student who said, "Mr. Chen's talk made me realize that good people can do bad things if they don't pay attention to their prejudices. But it also showed me that people can change if they're willing to do the work." Maya smiled as she read the article, then looked over at Zoe, who was playing with colorful blocks on the living room floor. Her daughter was growing up in a world where a taxi driver's moment of prejudice had sparked a national conversation, led to policy changes, and ultimately resulted in one man's journey toward redemption. It wasn't a perfect world, but it was a world where change was possible, where dialogue could triumph over division, and where even the most painful encounters could lead to unexpected grace. Maya had never imagined that her worst day could lead to so much good. But as she watched her daughter explore the world with curious, fearless eyes, she knew that sometimes the most powerful transformations come from the courage to face our worst moments, with hope for something better. The viral video was still online, still being viewed by thousands of people each month, but now Maya thought of it differently. Not as a record of discrimination, but as proof that speaking up for justice could change hearts, minds, and maybe even the world.